But today, Dan's here to talk about the brand new X series of PTZ cameras. But what we're going to do is between each camera, we're going to kind of sprinkle a little NDI technology type stuff. So one of the big things I want to start the show by saying, Dan, this is a completely new product line from a new factory and everything going forward with BirdDog. So describe what's going on. Tell us a little bit about that BirdDog 2.0 secret sauce.
All right. So this last 12 months has been actually quite a action-packed 12 months. And as you can see, we've got a whole lineup of new products. We're calling ourselves BirdDog 2.0, and this is actually a really deliberate move for us. What we've gone, and if you look at it with our first generation cameras, we kind of invented this space of NDI-based PTZ cameras. We were the first people to have NDI built on a chip in there. With BirdDog 2.0, we've turned up the volume in that a whole lot more in terms of the features that we put in here. And we've got a whole range of products that really start from something that's quite affordable, but packs a whole lot of punch in terms of its picture quality and the features that it has. It even has Wi-Fi, and then right up to a really high-end production camera with our X5s as well. But the big thing for us is by moving factories, what we've been able to do is actually really design these products from the ground up to be as purpose-built for video production as possible. A lot of PTZ cameras you see out there still look surprisingly like security cameras in a lot of ways. They're kind of from that
roots.
Yeah, that's right. These things are built as production cameras from the ground up, and we spent a lot of time making sure that not only the features as far as how they look and feel, but also the performance of them is designed to be for live production. And live in every sense of the word. Really low latency, really high quality, used for broadcast.
Now, speaking of low latency, you guys really embraced full NDI initially, because in a live production experience, latency was a killer. And when we were at NDI 1, 2, 3, I'd say up to about 5. Latency was a real problem for live production, especially sports.
Absolutely,
But now with HX3 and the latest versions of NDI, you've really seen that that's not really an issue anymore. So you guys have leaned more into HX3 than full NDI. Some of the higher-end cameras are still going to have full NDI, but really you've leaned into HX3. Explain your thinking behind that and how that's a step forward, not a step back.
Yeah, sure. So I think some might say we made a bit of a rod for our own back by being full NDI. Like if you think about BirdDog, in a lot of ways, we're synonymous with full NDI. But you're right. NDI 5 really was a change, a real step change in what NDI can do. And actually, it's a unifying step that was made with NDI 5 and then subsequently with version 6 as well. HX3 is really where it's at in these cameras. And it's a bit of a tough one to kind of get your head around in some ways. NDI HX is a format that's been around for quite some time. It was designed to be lower bandwidth and a bit lighter on the network.
And it was designed to work with Wi-Fi, but we'll get to that later.
We'll get to that afterwards, But so with HX3, what they've done is they've turned up the bandwidth that it uses, so it's not quite so frugal on a network. But they've also allowed us, what we've been able to do with this, to really reduce the latency that's on there as well. So we're seeing actually better latency, faster latency than we had with full NDI on these HX3 cameras.
And it's much more lightweight on the network, right?
It is,
all of a sudden,
less than
5 or 6 cameras, we get supported on the network.
Absolutely. And so the way we see it, and we've actually done quite a bit of work in terms of how we describe what NDI is, and we've got a brand new page on our website that describes that. But effectively, when you're working with cameras, it makes a whole lot of sense to run them with NDI HX3. You can have a bunch of them on there. That doesn't mean that your entire production needs to be HX, though. NDI with version 5 and above allows you to coexist with all of these formats together. So we've chosen effectively the best formats for the best part of that production. So in these cameras, HX3, we're seeing the performance that you expect from a BirdDog camera. In fact, better performance than we used to have. And with these more modern codecs that we're able to put in there, HX3 gives us at least as good an image quality, but then we go right up to 4K 60 now as well.
Cool. I want to let everyone know we're going to be bringing up a lot of lower thirds with URLs on them. Don't worry that you have to memorize them and know what they are. They're as part of the video, let you know you go there. But through our blog posts and the YouTube videos, we will embed direct links to those URLs. But you're going to be seeing that a lot because you guys have done a really good job producing these white papers and landing pages to really explain where you're going and what you're doing. So let's, without further ado, let's jump into the X series. We have a lot of the cameras up here. The X4 just started shipping a couple weeks ago, but we started with the Makis. And the Makis, first of all, before you get into anything, it's a cute story. Why are they called the Mak?
So everyone loves sushi for lunch, right?
Exactly.
So it looks a bit like a sushi roll, like
a Maki roll, right?
A Maki roll. So that's kind of the name of it. They're effectively, they look a bit like a sushi roll, but they're designed really for being used in any kind of blocked off position. So it could be on a stage, it could be sporting events where you want a camera to be looking at a specific location. But these guys have got really quite a good zoom story as well. We actually have two models. They're both the same price, curiously, which...
I want to thank you for that, because in a lot of product lines automatically charge more for a higher X, they charge more, even though their cost of goods really isn't that different. I think what I love about this line is we're forcing people to get educated on why would I want a 12X or why would I want a 20X. And a lot of people don't think photography and that a wider shot will look better sometimes than a more narrow shot. And the 20X starts with a narrow field of view, but can go further out. The 12X starts wider, can't go as far, but there's a reason for each one. We want you to think about it in terms of what's the room, what's the studio, what's the production you're doing. Don't let price be an issue.
That's exactly right.
You want a zoom camera, a box camera that just does zoom, that you can position on talent, a product, or what have you. Get the right one for the job, right?
That's exactly right. And that's what we've really tried to do with these Makis is you look at it, and a 12X zoom doesn't seem like it's as good as 20, as you said. But actually, in a lot of cases, it is better. Having a wider field of view means if you've got a small studio or if you've got some space that's limited, you get a much wider field of view. So it actually allows you to fit more things in. It gives you, in some ways, a more cinematic shot. But then if you've got a big room, you want to have a longer zoom. So that's where the 20X comes.
You know, for my video guys, prime lenses, 0.5 and 1.5 are probably the most common prime lenses people get. And a lot of times, if you're just an amateur photographer, let's say you're doing stuff outdoors, you want landscapes and stuff like that. Well, you know that a wide angle lens is actually more valuable, even though you're outdoors. And there's times for a zoom. Get the one that's right for your video production. Inside of video production, I think a lot of time you want to think, how far away am I from the subject?
That's it.
And how great is the stuff behind the subject? Is it worth seeing or not?
Absolutely. That's exactly right. And especially when you're doing video production, quite a lot of studio spaces are quite small. And so having that wider field of view means you can have a better shot in that small space.
Now, I got to tell you, when you first came out with the product with the two pieces, I was a little skeptical about what the market would be and all that. But the Maki has been a really strong seller. And we're seeing it sell into a lot of verticals, not just video production. We see it's doing very well in the AV conference room space. People like it. It's even gotten into some like medical apps in some places you wouldn't think about seeing it. So talk about how this camera, we're video production guys, right? That's our heart and soul. But there's a lot of other opportunities for this camera that I want to make sure people understand, because it's NDI, if I can put it on a network jack, I can bring it in and send it anywhere, including just sending it to a laptop in a medical situation or what have you. So talk about that, because I really think for NDI November, I really want people to understand that there's applications beyond video production, not just for NDI, but for the products.
Absolutely. So, I mean, from our point of view, we're actually really surprised almost on a daily basis of where these products get used. And Maki is probably the best example of that. You mentioned a couple of great examples. AV installations, the picture quality that comes out of these cameras is just next level. So it makes your conference room look like you're on TV. And that's why people want to use it there. That medical space has been a really great success story for us in terms of where we're taking this. They're quite small, they're unobtrusive. You don't necessarily want to have a PTZ camera inside a operating theater or something like that. But you can get these great shots. We're seeing it in security, which is really interesting because
it's full circle.
Yeah, it's like it's funny. I was just mentioning before, these cameras don't look like security cameras. Makis are being used in security for a whole bunch of things.
And Dan, I'm going to get you this isn't in the script or anything, but I want to get you to get on this a little bit, because you do have a kind of medical side hustle going on with BirdDog. So I'm giving you a minute. Describe what that is all about, because I think it's great. It's opening up that vertical. NDI is a reason why you leaned in there.
Absolutely, yeah. So from the medical side of things, really what we discovered is we've got great vision switches. You can use a TriCaster or a vMix and all this kind of stuff. Doctors don't want to learn how to make a video production, but they want to have something that gives them a lot more flexibility than using Teams or Zoom. So we've made this product that's called Remedy. It's based on all of our NDI technology. So we can take any camera on a network and then we can stream that over the internet. And it allows people at the other end, so it might be a specialist, it might be a medical device manufacturer, that can have a look at that video and they can interact with it. So they can move the PTZ camera around, and it's like a Teams or a Zoom call that's supercharged.
Very cool for medical. Very cool. Maybe at some point it'll come to the US. Who knows?
Absolutely. Right? We're looking at it.
All right. So next, let's lean into the first products that shipped on the new line, the X1 and the X1 Ultra. I'm going to be honest with you, I get a little confused because I'm usually a number is the same thing or different. You have the X1, which is 1080p 20x optical. The X1 Ultra is 4K, 2160p 30, 12x optical, so there really are big differences. Although they're both called X1, there's a lot of difference in these two cameras, really intended for different users.
They really are. So we see the X1 really is kind of the, it's sort of a do-it-all type entry-level PTZ camera, but in terms of picture quality, it really punches above its weight. It's really surprising when you look at it as far as how the pictures come out of this thing. But it's pretty flexible. You can use it in a church scenario or sporting events where you need a fairly long zoom. Where we go into the X1 Ultra, and Ultra is kind of a theme through all of our products. That's the UHD, so that's the 4K version of it. That one really comes into its own in terms of the picture quality you get, and having that 12x zoom, it's a bit like that Maki story. It gives you a wider field of view. And so again, in a studio type environment where you might have some talking head type things, it really does a great job.
Yeah, the favorite example I like to use with this when we're talking to customers, we have a lot of schools, high schools and small colleges that do basketball. So they'll put PTZ cameras to shoot the sporting event, but they'll also want a PTZ camera on the table. And if they're shooting 4K, I'm like, you can't put an HD camera on the announcer's sitting, but the table is literally a bridge table. It's one of those folding tables for costume. And, you know, the 12X fits so much better for that.
It does.
And you don't really need P60 because it's really, I say it's a great 4K talking head camera to be integrated into a 4K production. When I describe it that way, you're like, aha, and it's only $14.95. And I love when a camera has a feature level that hits a price point that's just killer. And at $995, the X1 for under $1,000 with 20X, 1080 P60, HX3, SRT, RTMP, and Wi-Fi. Now, I joked with Dan earlier because the initial version of HX, it wasn't even called HX1 back then, had Wi-Fi, and we quickly learned that it wasn't ready, and Wi-Fi networks were really. But in a world where we have Wi-Fi 6 now on most Wi-Fi routers and hotspots, and even 7 coming, all of a sudden became possible. And I find that a lot of times someone wants, why do you want a camera that's Wi-Fi? Well, maybe you're in a church that is, you know, you want to put the camera in a spot where you're not drilling any holes because it's historical, or there's a mosaic, a glass window, a stained glass window, something behind it. Or maybe what it is you are doing that basketball court, like I said, but you can't leave that wire there where the kids trip because it's right off the side of the floor. So it's the perfect thing. So we'll talk more about Wi-Fi, get into more Wi-Fi cameras, but really talk about what was it that all of a sudden for you as the engineer, which Dan designs all the BirdDog products, by the way. I hope you're not the guy who designed the green logo.
I know we don't like that. You can't see my green logo.
I always got to break his chops every time about that one. What made it able for you to say, hey, I can take Wi-Fi across the finish line now?
Yeah. So I actually had it was a moment, it was a couple of years ago now. I was at a conference and all of the cameras were on one side of the stage because they couldn't get a cable across the other side. They were using NDI, but they just couldn't get a camera over the other side. And I was like, right, we do need to work out how to fix this. And the big thing that you're talking about is actually how Wi-Fi has evolved. So we now have Wi-Fi 5, 6, and 7. There's more channels, more frequencies, and there's better quality of service around it. The switches have got a whole lot better. The Wi-Fi routers have got a whole lot better. And so now we are genuinely at a point where these can be used that way. We haven't thrown away the network connection. So you know, in a lot of cases, it still makes sense to run over a network connection. But it's that get out of jail feature where you want to put a camera over in a different place to get a better shot. Or you have, you know, a church, for example, where you really would like to get a shot there, but you just can't drill a hole.
So I want to jump on what Dan said because I think it's really important as a point, and that is Wi-Fi is great. We love Wi-Fi, but we're not saying throw out wire. No. We're saying whenever you can run the cable, run the cable. It works, it's convenient, it's better. But now we've enabled Wi-Fi, and we're not talking about putting 6 or 7 Wi-Fi cameras in a room yet.
Not yet, but
we are talking about that it is something you can do. You can do it's affordable, it's easy to do. And these cameras work great. You can have this camera be Wi-Fi on one production, and you can use it in another production where it's wired. You know, it's okay to you. But your point about the conversation, I've seen situations where you're in a hotel, and for safety reasons, the staff won't let you run the cabling that long across the room, or all the power's on that side of the room, whatever it is. So power to this can be run on a battery, correct?
Yeah, that's right. We've got a little DC cable. You can run it off a battery as well. So yeah, you can have it completely wireless. You don't need to have anything like it.
Cool. So the X1, X1 Ultra, they're now the veterans of the X1 family.
If you can say that, they've
been out there for a little bit, right?
A little bit.
Let's jump into some of the really cool new stuff. Now, we're going to the X5 before the X4 because the X5 came out first, which you saw all good. Yeah. So let's talk about the X5 Ultra and where it fits in the marketplace and why you feel so strongly that people needed a camera of this level.
So X5, if you haven't had a chance to look at one, you really owe it to yourself to have a look at. In terms of the image quality, in terms of the way it works, a PTZ camera, the clue's in the name, right? They've got pan, tilt, and zoom. And we spent a lot of time and effort on the robotics on this camera. So the way that it actually moves around, one of the big things you want to be able to do is move cameras while they're on air. And a lot of times with PTZs, you save presets and you have to cut away from air, being on air to move them. with the X5, it takes it to the next level. You can move around very naturally, really slight, small movements. The picture quality out of the thing is just, it's incredible. So it's basically all the fruit that we could put into a camera in terms of picture quality, robotics, the form factor. It's designed for production at any level in terms of.
So I want to ask a question. What's this all about on the side? Talk about this, because I think it's very novel and interesting, especially if I'm in a situation that we have people who are using 5, 10, 20 cameras.
Yep.
And keeping track of cameras ain't so easy.
Yeah.
Correct. So talk about that a little bit, what you've done there, because I think it's very, very clever. It hasn't added a lot of cost to the unit, but it's added a lot of utility from the standpoint of the people who have to make the camera work for any situation.
I think we might have upset some duct tape sales guys. They're not going to sell so many. Basically, what we have on the side of all of our X series cameras is an e-ink display. You might have seen it on things like a Kindle or ebook readers. Basically, it's a display that's on all the time, even when it's not turned on. So you'll notice that Gary picked up that camera and it's actually still on. So basically what you can do is use that as a label for your screen. For your camera. You can either put a name on there that might be camera 1, 2, and 3. If you're doing some kind of remote production, you can just pick it up and know exactly what that camera is. But it's also got a QR code. And that's
the secret
sauce.
Yeah,
it's unique to every camera. If you take your phone up and scan that QR code, it takes you straight to the web configuration of it. So you can adjust whatever setting you need to. You can get straight to it. One of the biggest things that we've had as far as a pain point, and I think everyone has, is NDI is fantastic. You can run all your audio and video over a network. It works really well.
Yep.
Until you don't know what the IP address is of the camera, or until you need to find a camera on the network. So having that display with a QR code takes you straight there. There's, it just cuts down any of that confusion when you're rolling out the camera.
Cool. And the other thing I wanted to say is the web setup utility has been around for a long time for you guys. I think with the X1s, you've made it, I like the newer, better, improved interface, but I think it's easier to use. I think it's really an essential tool that you're providing that other camera vendors aren't. And, setting up these cameras is part of the job when you own these cameras. Even if it's a house of worship, sometimes you got to take them down for something else, move them to a different room. And when you have to lose half a day to reset things up, and if you've ever been there and how to do it, it's half a day is not an exaggeration sometimes.
That's right. I've been there. And so for us, we have what we call our Bird UI. And really what we've actually done is taken what traditionally you'd use an application for, like a computer program. We built that directly into all of our cameras. So the interface is really easy to understand. It's got all the settings that you would need. They've got a video preview. The X5's got that, and the other cameras are coming out with that as well. But it allows you to really easily interact with that camera and get it looking exactly as you want. So ease of use is something that's really big for us. Even just one of the details we have, if you're in a bright environment, you want to have a light-colored background so you can see what's going on. So if you're doing an event outdoors, a light interface works well. But then when you're indoors, if you're doing it in a theater, a dark interface makes more sense because you don't want to blind yourself. So we have even just...
Or distract your audience.
Yeah, that's right.
What's that thing on the side?
Yeah, that's right. So we've got all of those things we've thought of. And that sort of goes through all of these cameras where every detail is really thought about for a production sense.
So I want to talk about specifics of the camera. First of all, we didn't list it here, but for our audience, what's the zoom on it?
The zoom is 20 times zoom.
So, cool. So it's 20x zoom. You have a lot of hardware on the back of it. You've got 12 SDI, 2 HDMIs, USB, and the network jack. Tell me what the thing was behind 2 HDMI jacks. What's going on there? Why?
So, again, this is one of our little, it's a bit of a secret weapon, but we probably shouldn't be secretive about these things.
You might want to brag about these.
Yeah, that's right. So the X series cameras, specifically the X1 and the X5, have a built-in NDI decoder. So if you're running NDI HX on your network, whether that's HX2 or HX3, the camera can not only send the pictures that's being made by the camera, but it can also receive an NDI signal back. That works amazingly for anything from a teleprompter, a confidence screen. You want to take the output from your vision switcher, you can output that directly from the camera. So it's really taking the promise of NDI of running everything over one cable to the next level where you can run literally everything over one cable, including a return.
And in a house of worship, if I want to have some side monitors, I can run it right off of NDI.
Straight off the
into my camera, off the camera, and I can wire that room, which is very cool. And the other thing that you've added, you guys have invested a lot. I know it's a buzzword and it gets used to death, but you've got some AI functionality.
Yep.
Of course, it's first and foremost in auto tracking. But talk a little about the auto tracking, talk about where else AI is becoming a role in the X family.
Yeah, so AI, it grows. That's the whole point. I'm sure you've probably heard of generative AI by now, which is, it learns and gets better at things. So what we've got in terms of AI in these cameras is fantastic, and it actually is, it's really at the top tier compared to other AI-based implementations. but we can add more and more features. So effectively, auto tracking is something people immediately think of. So let's say we turn that on and it's going to follow you around as you move around the stage. We've also got auto framing. So that works really well if you've got multiple people in on a stage. The camera will automatically zoom out and fit everybody in on that frame. So auto framing is actually really quite a good use, especially if you've got something like a talk show where people are coming in and out. The camera can work itself out. Then we've also got, it's brand new on the X4, which is, we'll talk about the camera in a moment, zone-based tracking. And that works really well where if someone walks into a particular zone, the camera will recall a preset. Or if they walk out of that zone, it'll recall a different preset. So if you're walking around an area doing demonstrations, maybe it's in a lecture theatre or something like that, as you walk up to the whiteboard, the camera is going to move across to there. And if you walk away, then it'll move out to a wide shot. So it becomes almost like your virtual producer. There's a whole lot more that we can do with AI, and I'm pretty excited about where that's heading. One thing that we spoke about earlier is BirdDog 2.0. What we're being very careful of is making sure when we're talking about things, they're here and now and they work. So I'm not going to get too over the top around where AI is going. All I can say is that it's very much...
Well, before we get to the X4, I can tell you an AI request we've gotten from customers, especially customers on a tight budget, so maybe they don't have 1 or 2 PTZ cameras, not a lot. They would like to have the camera go from one shot to another shot as if it was a cameraman. So, you know, start with that wide shot and then act like a cameraman and zoom into me or you. Don't, as good as PTZ remote control is, you need an expensive controller and a guy who's really good at it to emulate something like that. But if we just say, you know, go from that wide shot to me or go that wide shot to you, I'd love to see it do it in a smooth, creative way that was right based on where I fit on the shot, you know? So that's why I think you need the AI. It's not going to be the same for every situation, but I definitely know people would love a feature like that.
I think that's a pretty good idea. That's all I can say for the moment. So.
Cool. Next, I want to go to the X4 Ultra, 4K P60. We don't have one here yet because they're so new. I apologize for that.
They're brand new. They are shipping those.
They are shipping, but every unit's going to a customer. We don't want to take one out to bring in. That is 20X also, correct?
It is 20X. This is a bit of a different beast, though. So this camera, I think, is almost like the Goldilocks of the cameras that we have. It fits in the middle of our range. It's got 4K 60. It's got SDI outputs. The cool thing with this one, though, is it's got a battery built in. And you might have seen on the pictures, there's a couple of antennas. So this one is also Wi-Fi 6 with a much more powerful transmitter and a battery built in. So it'll run for up to 6 hours, completely standalone.
So if I take that camera and send it to somebody, all they have to do is plug it in and it works?
Yes. So basically, you don't need to plug it in.
Right. All I have to do is find it on the network.
That's right. Yep. So as long as you find it on the network, it's there. It's ready to go. The beauty of NDI is you've got all of the controls and everything, so you can pan, tilt, zoom.
So you've got something called the BDI Cloud.
Yes.
Would I be able to take that camera and ship it to, let's say I wanted to have someone speak on my program, and they were supposed to come in, but something happened to their dog, they got sick or whatever, they still want to do the program, but they can't travel anymore. Can I send them that camera, set it up from the home office wherever I am, and bring it into like a TriCaster or a VMix with the BDI Cloud?
So BirdDog Cloud is something that, again, I've got all these great best kept secrets, right? We need to be more about showing this, and I'd love to actually do a demo at some point on it. But BirdDog Cloud takes remote production to the next level. We spoke about the BirdDog Bird UI, that interface. Through BirdDog Cloud, you can not only see the video from the camera, you can control the camera, but you can also get into that user interface as well. So you can get all the colors right. All we want to do, the dream of this, is you send someone a camera and say, point it in the general direction, we'll take it from there. It doesn't matter where you are.
You look at the BirdDog label, you see the word BirdDog, we're going to make everything else work remotely. And I think that's where this camera is going to fit in. Like, we know there's a lot of very high-end, even broadcast programs where they want to bring in someone remotely in a hurry. How do you get it done? Or something where you got to knock something out really quickly and get the room set up. You know we have situations with sports where it's not an outdoor camera, but I can put this thing behind the center field wall, control it from the control room. You got it. I got Wi-Fi all over the stadium, so I'm not worried about that. And here we go. I'm not running cables. And I think one of the things, we're not saying the world's going wireless for video production. We're saying wireless lets you do stuff with your video production that you couldn't really do before for whatever reason. And the battery inside, I think, is amazing. Well, it's got the e-ink and all the other stuff. So very cool product. And what is that one retailing for?
That one's $21.99. So $21.99.
Nice job, nice job. And then you've got a wireless receiver station now.
So again, this is all about trying to make things as easy as possible. You want to be able to get this thing out of the box and use it. You know, we're making video production. We're not being network engineers. So having, this camera will work on your regular Wi-Fi network, but having this base station gives you the ability to just literally turn it on. Everything's designed to work together, and you can get on with the job of actually making it.
So I want to get back to baseball. We used to sell a product called the Sling Studio. If you remember, had these things called cam lights.
Yep.
And people loved it, especially for baseball and softball, because you always want to put that camera out in center field.
Yep.
And there was never wires in center field. I can have my vMix or my TriCaster or Wirecaster running on a laptop.
Yep.
I can put this thing out in the outfield because I've got Wi-Fi. I can put this thing next to the laptop and receive the signal.
You don't need any other network.
And bring everything in and nicely done. Because now even if I'm going with like a Roland mixer that isn't even NDI.
Yeah.
Good. Well done. Good job, guys. Good job. Very happy about that. But you know what makes me happier?
Promos.
Promos and deals, baby. Promos and deals. Bring these up full screen, guys. And just look at these deals. We're talking about $200, $400, $500 off. I'm just staring at the screen. All right, guys. It's not often you can save on every single camera in a camera line when they're new cameras.
That's right.
So that you guys have done this, I know it's marketers will tell you don't do it, don't discount what you're doing and all that. But I think this is a great way to say we're back.
We are.
It's the holiday season. It's year-end money. It's Black Friday. We're not calling it anything than the X Factor because I love how you're tying it to the X. I love that.
See what we've done there?
I got it. Talk about these deals. Let's run down them one by one.
All right. So we are, first and foremost, it's exactly that. We're super excited about this whole new range. So for us, we want as many people to experience it and see it as possible. And we're back. BirdDog 2.0. We're back with this whole new range of products. What we want to do is anyone that's got a camera that they've been using, whether it's a BirdDog one or someone else's camera, we don't mind. If you've got a camera and you want to upgrade to the latest version of our cameras, we're giving you the chance to do that with these upgrade promos. So effectively, depending on the model, you can get some cash off of the new camera. So whenever you want to upgrade your camera within this quarter, because it's only a very limited time, you can take that money off straight away. So basically, you register on our website, you get a code, and then when you buy it through your favorite retailer, you get a discount off that camera.
Now, what I want to say is you'll notice these are all the 4K cameras, which makes sense because a lot of people got HD cameras during COVID just to be able to stream and do Wi-Fi and to do, video production without people in the room.
Yep.
This is really urging people to go make the jump up to 4K, start getting 4K into your environment. We don't ask you to give your old camera back. No, you just have to register that you have a camera so you qualify for it. And by the way, not saying people should cheat or anything, but we're not going to be able to know if it was your camera or not. We just need the camera to register.
I'm looking the other way. That's all I'm saying.
But, it's a great promotion, a great deal. And I really urge everyone who's thinking about going into 4K to take a look at these savings because they really are pretty dramatic. It's now through the end of the year. We love it. Thank you so much. Bring it up full screen one more time because the deals are so good. $200 off on an X1 Ultra, $400 on an X4 Ultra, and $500 on the 5. Gotta love it. Well done. Good job. High
Thank you, mate.
all around. You can hear it. You saw the end of it. Very cool. That's today's show. I want to thank everyone who tuned in to the X series of PTZ cameras. Dan, did we miss anything we should have covered?
I think we've covered everything here. I mean, this whole new lineup is really exciting. So there is genuinely a camera for any type of application. So if you haven't looked at them yet, take the opportunity to have a look. And obviously, for the next couple of months, we've got these promos on as well. So NDI November.
Dan, thanks for jumping over an ocean and coming to visit us. This was great having you in here. And tune into the rest of the NDI November stuff. Remember, register at NDI November. We've got prizes, of which prizes are a lot of BirdDog PTZ cameras, over $10,000 worth of prizes. The shows are on during the course of the entire month of November. Product spotlights, user interviews, user success stories, some dealers and integrators talking about what they did, bringing in guests remotely or or right into the studio like Dan over here. And then also remember that we've got the 12th through the 14th, guys. There's going to be a little bit more of intensive shows, really focused, where we're taking your whole afternoon. Register for that. And of course, if you missed any of the shows, you'll be able to catch them on YouTube later. This is Gary from NDI November.
And I'm Dan from BirdDog.
Peace, people.